My name is Ravi Anand, and on August 9, 2011, my life changed forever. For decades, I believed I had found the highest truth. I was a spiritual leader, a teacher, a guide, someone who had dedicated his life to Hindu philosophy, meditation, and enlightenment. I spent my days leading others toward self-realization, toward breaking free from the cycle of birth and rebirth. I believed I had attained wisdom, but then, in an instant, my world collapsed. I was in a terrible car accident, one that left me clinically dead, and in those moments beyond the physical world, I had an experience that shattered everything I had ever believed. I had spent my life searching for the divine, yet when I crossed over, the one who met me was not who I expected. I met Jesus Christ, and when I returned, nothing would ever be the same again. I was born into a Hindu family in Varanasi, India, one of the holiest cities in our faith. From a young age, I was taught that life was about karma, dharma, and the pursuit of moksha, liberation from rebirth. I was a curious child, always seeking answers. Why are we here? What is the purpose of suffering? How can we escape the endless cycle of birth and death? By the time I was a teenager, I had already committed myself to a life of spiritual discipline. I studied the Vedas, the Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita, memorizing their verses, contemplating their meanings. By adulthood, my path was clear. I became a guru, a teacher, someone who could help others find their way to enlightenment. 4 years, I lived as a spiritual guide, offering wisdom to seekers who came from all over to sit at my feet. I spent hours in meditation, chanting mantras, and leading rituals. People looked up to me as a man of deep knowledge and divine connection. But despite my spiritual status, I sometimes felt a hollow emptiness inside, a strange void that no amount of prayer or meditation could fill. I told myself it was just another test, another obstacle on the path to enlightenment. But deep down, I wondered, is this truly all there is? Then, everything changed. It was late evening, and I was returning from a meditation retreat in the countryside. The air was thick with the scent of monsoon rain, and the streets were slick with water. I was in the back seat of a car, my driver carefully navigating the narrow roads. I was reciting a Sanskrit prayer under my breath, my mind deep in contemplation. Then, without warning, headlights flashed before my eyes. A truck had lost control, swerving directly into our path. There was no time to react. The sound of metal crushing against metal filled my ears. My body was flung forward. I felt an unimaginable pain shoot through my chest. And then, darkness. I knew, in that moment, I was dying. I expected nothingness. I had spent my life believing that at the moment of death, the soul leaves the body and prepares for its next reincarnation. I thought I would be met with visions of past lives, the weight of my karma determining what would happen next. But instead, I was floating above my body. I looked down and saw the wreckage. My lifeless body inside the crushed car, my driver slumped over the wheel, the paramedics desperately trying to revive me. I should have felt fear, but I didn't. I felt peace. Then, I sensed something behind me. I turned, and that's when I saw the light. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced. This wasn't just a glow. It wasn't the abstract Brahman I had studied in Hindu texts. This was a living, powerful presence, one that radiated love, truth, and holiness. I felt myself being drawn toward it, as if my soul recognized something familiar in this light. And then I saw him. A figure stepped forward from within the light. At first, I couldn't make out his face, but as he drew closer, I saw him clearly. It was Jesus Christ. My mind rejected what I was seeing. This couldn't be happening. I had spent my entire life believing that Christianity was just one of many paths, that Jesus was just another teacher, like Krishna or Buddha. But as I stood before him, I knew I had been wrong. He wasn't just a guru. He wasn't just a wise man. He was God. His eyes were filled with love, but also authority. I felt as if he could see into the depths of my soul, knowing every thought, every doubt, every question I had ever asked. Then he spoke. And when he did, it wasn't just sound, it was truth itself. Jesus looked at me and said, "Ravi, you have spent your life searching for truth, but you have not yet found it." I trembled. "I have followed the path of Dharma, the way of wisdom and discipline," I tried to say. He nodded, as if he understood my struggle. Then he said something that shook me to my core. "Salvation is not earned. It is given." Those words cut through me like a sword. My entire belief system had been built on karma, the idea that I had to earn my way to liberation through good deeds, meditation, and lifetimes of effort. But Jesus was telling me something radically different. "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Tears filled my eyes. I suddenly saw visions of my life, all the moments I had tried to find peace, all the times I had tried to silence the emptiness inside me. And I realized I had been searching in the wrong place. I fell to my knees before him. "Lord, what do I do?" And he simply said, "Believe." I knelt before Jesus, tears streaming down my face. The truth weighed heavily on me. I had spent my entire life believing that salvation came through effort, through meditation, discipline, and the accumulation of good karma. But now, standing in his presence, I understood. Salvation was not earned. It was given. I had spent decades searching for truth, but truth wasn't an idea. It wasn't a philosophy. Truth was a person. Truth was Jesus Christ. I wanted to stay. In that moment, I wanted nothing more than to remain in his presence forever. But then, Jesus showed me something. I saw my body in the wreckage, paramedics still fighting to revive me. I saw my family mourning, unaware that I was still here, watching everything unfold. I saw my followers, the seekers who had looked up to me, still lost in their own spiritual journeys, unaware of the truth I had just encountered. Then, Jesus spoke again. "Ravi, you must go back." I looked at him, my heart pounding. But why? His eyes held such love, such mercy, yet also a quiet urgency. "Because they need to hear what you have seen." A deep sadness filled me. I knew that if I returned, everything in my life would change. My family, my friends, my entire community, they would never accept what I had experienced. They would turn against me. Jesus must have known my fears because he placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "Do not be afraid. I will be with you always." And then I was pulled backward, away from the light, away from Jesus, away from the place of perfect peace. The first thing I felt was pain, a deep, crushing ache in my chest, a sharp sting along my arms and legs. I gasped for air, and suddenly I was back in my body. The sound of sirens, the beeping of hospital monitors, the shouts of doctors and nurses, it all came rushing back at once. I was alive. The doctors were stunned. They had already declared me dead, yet here I was, breathing, conscious, awake. But something was different. I was not the same man who had left this world. I had been given a second chance, but for a purpose. For the first few days, I said nothing. I was still processing everything. I lay in my hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of what I had seen. I knew I had to tell someone. So, I decided to start with my brother, Sanjay. He had always been the one I confided in, the one who supported me no matter what. If anyone would listen, it would be him. When he entered my hospital room, his face was filled with relief. "You almost died, Ravi," he said, gripping my hand. "The doctors said it was a miracle you survived." I took a deep breath. "Sanjay, something happened to me while I was gone." He frowned. "What do you mean?" I hesitated. I knew that the moment I spoke the words, everything between us would change forever. But I couldn't lie. I met Jesus. The expression on his face shifted instantly. Confusion, then disbelief. "No, Ravi, you were unconscious. You were hallucinating." I shook my head. "No, Sanjay. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't my imagination. I left my body. I saw my own death. And Jesus, he was there. He is real. He is the Son of God." His face darkened. "Stop. Don't say that. I have to. It's the truth." His hands clenched into fists. "You're confused. You were just in shock. Stop speaking this nonsense before the family hears you." I could see the fear in his eyes. Not fear for me, but fear of what my words could mean. If I truly believed what I was saying, it would mean everything we had been raised to believe was incomplete. But I couldn't deny the truth. I had seen Jesus, and I could never go back. I didn't stop sharing my testimony. I told my parents, my friends, my fellow spiritual teachers, and one by one, they all rejected me. My father refused to speak to me. "You have dishonored our family," he said with tears in his eyes. "You are no longer my son." My community, the people who had once revered me as a guru, turned against me. They called me a traitor, a fool, a man who had been deceived. Some even said I had been cursed. But despite everything, I felt peace. Because I knew, deep down, that I had finally found the truth I had spent my entire life searching for. In the months that followed, I secretly obtained a Bible and began to study it. Every page I turned confirmed what I had seen. I read the words of Jesus, his promises of salvation, his sacrifice on the cross, his resurrection. And for the first time, it all made sense. I had spent my life trying to attain enlightenment, trying to free myself from karma, trying to reach God through my own effort. But Jesus had already made the way. I didn't need to earn salvation. I just needed to accept it. What if everything you thought you knew about God was only part of the truth? I spent my life searching, meditating, and striving for enlightenment, only to realize that the truth wasn't something I had to achieve, but someone I had to meet. Maybe you've been searching too. Maybe you feel like something is missing, even though you've followed every teaching, every practice, every rule. Jesus is not just another teacher. He is the way to God. If you're feeling a stirring in your heart, don't ignore it. That's not coincidence. That's an invitation. I encourage you to ask Him to reveal Himself to you. You don't have to take my word for it. Seek, and you will find. If this testimony has spoken to you, share it with someone else who might need to hear it. And if you want to hear more life-changing stories like this, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. You are here for a reason. Don't leave without asking yourself, what if this is the truth?